It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. Thanks for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. A lot of good material coming your way over the next hour. If this is your first time tuning into this program, we talk about residential real estate here. We talk about matters that affect housing. I've been in real estate for 11 years. I'm a local real estate agent. I own a real estate team here in Charleston. And collectively, we've sold about 1,000 homes in our career. We've sold about 200 so far this year. So I take my experiences as somebody that sells real estate on a day-to-day basis. And then, of course, I monitor the market nationally, regionally, locally. And I educate you on the process of buying, selling, and investing in real estate to share that information with you so that you can become a more informed consumer. So here's what we have planned over the next hour. I want to talk about HOAs. I want to first talk about the formation of HOAs, covenants and restrictions, what you need to know if you're going to buy a house in a neighborhood with covenants and restrictions, rules and guidelines that you need to live by in your neighborhood. We're going to talk about some things that, there was a great article that came out a few years ago about 6 things real estate agents wish you knew about the industry and about us as real estate agents. So part of what I do on this program is help you better understand how real estate agents work so that you can be prepared when discussing hiring an agent to help you buy or sell a house. And lastly, we're going to talk about what you should ask if you're going to interview an agent to sell your house. We've had a lot of people that tried selling their home this year, even in a great market, a great seller's market where homes are typically selling quickly and for top dollar, yet they didn't sell. So I'm going to give you some questions that you should ask of the agent that you're going to hire to help you sell your house. So that's what we have planned. Now, if you want to reach out to me, you want to talk about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, as I mentioned, I have one of the top teams here in the Low Country for real estate, and we'd love to earn your business. My number is 843-345-1273. That's 843-345-1273. You can call or text that number, or you can send me an email, Brian Beatty, B-R-I-A-N, Beatty, B-E-A-T-T-Y, at kw.com. And lastly, you can visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Learn more about who we are and what we do, how we sell real estate, how we represent sellers and market their homes for sale, see what we've sold. And of course, search any home available for sale in the MLS and listen to previous versions of this show by clicking on the radio show tab. And you can contact me that way by just clicking the contact tab. So one of my main focuses for my program this morning is to help you better understand HOAs and covenants and restrictions, which are the rules and guidelines you need to live by when you live in these types of neighborhoods or developments. So first, I want to tell you a little story about a development in New York called Levittown, which was the first truly mass-produced suburb and is widely regarded as kind of the original example of post-World War II suburbs throughout the country. So I'm going to give you a little history lesson first. After World War II, there was a massive shortage of housing, especially for veterans that were coming back from the war. When you combine that with increased birth rates, which founded the baby boomer generation, and affordable housing options just being very scarce as being a major issue, a gentleman by the name of William Levitt and his company Levitt & Sons built a planned development that consisted of about 2,000 rentals. And it was very quickly successful. In fact, the New York Herald Tribune back at that point in time said that they rented half the neighborhood in 2 days after they announced after the announcement of the neighborhood in May 7th of 1947. As demand continued, which exceeded supply, the Levitts expanded their project and added 4,000 homes and community services like schools and postal delivery and so on and so forth. And so with this 4,000 homes that they built, they got backing from the federal government for housing, which was administered under the Federal Housing Administration, the FHA. So the Levitt & Sons company kind of switched from rentals to sales of property. And here's what's really cool. They offered a program through the FHA where no down payment was required and mortgage payments were $60 a month. My, how times have changed. So Levittown was designed to provide a large amount of housing at a time where there just was high demand for affordable family homes. This suburban development would be really kind of the symbol or the icon of the American dream. I mean, it allowed thousands and thousands and thousands of families to become homeowners virtually overnight. But Levittown would also become a symbol of racial segregation. And what's fascinating is that the discriminatory housing standards of Levittown were consistent with housing and government policies put in place at that point in time. The FHA, the Federal Housing Administration, allowed developers to justify segregation within public housing. This is really interesting. The FHA only offered mortgages to non-mixed developments, which discouraged developers from creating racially integrated housing. So with that policy that the FHA created, the buying agreement, the purchase agreement signed by everybody that purchased a home in neighborhoods like Levittown stated that the property could not be used or rented by any individual other than a white person. And before the sale of Levittown homes began, the sales agents were aware that no applicants from black families would be accepted. So as a result, American veterans who wished to purchase a home in Levittown, as an example, were unable to do so if they were black. And so William Levitt attempted to justify their decision to only sell homes to white families by saying things like it was in the best interest of their business and in their development. He claimed that their actions were not discriminatory, but intended to maintain the value of their properties. This is obviously it's crazy. It's changed a lot now, but the company explained that it was not possible to reduce racial segregation while they were attempting to reduce the housing shortage. And Levitt was Jewish. And he said that even though he was Jewish, with the remainder of about a third of people being Roman Catholic and a third being Protestant, regardless, selling to African Americans said it goes against, what he believed in. And he said, I have no room in my heart for racial prejudice, but the plain fact is that most white people prefer to live in non-mixed communities. So obviously this attitude was wrong morally. And, he hoped that someday it would change. And, there was a quote that's saying, hey, I hope this changes for the better. But at that point in time, the Levitts explained that they would open up applicants to blacks after they had sold as many homes to white people as possible. They believed that potential white buyers would not want to buy a house in Levittown if they were aware that they would someday have black neighbors. So in response to this massive discrimination of Levittown and in other developments like it later on down the road, an opposition group was formed that was called the Committee to End Discrimination in Levittown. This group protested that the sale of Levittown homes, was unconstitutional, really, and they pushed for integrated communities. In 1948, a legal proceeding by the United States Supreme Court declared that property deeds stipulating racial segregation was unenforceable by law. But the restrictive covenant in the original rental agreement, which migrated to, the sales agreement, stated that houses could not be rented or sold to anyone but members of the Caucasian race. The Levitts, they didn't undertake efforts to counteract that racial segregation of their suburb, and thus the racial composition of Levittown didn't change. I mean, by 1960, Levittown was still a completely white suburb. Only well after, Brown versus the Board of Education was Levittown racially integrated. And even into the late 1990s, that stigma still existed in Levittown. So while the Levitts are generally credited with being the designer of the kind of post-war planned community, so to speak, with common public amenities like swimming pools and community centers, they were quick to release those high-maintenance, low-profit elements to the surrounding towns. The development sprawled across municipal boundaries, causing legal and administrative difficulties and requiring major initiatives within those existing municipalities to provide for and fund things like schools and sewer and water systems and other infrastructure-based elements. Now, in 1949, Levitt & Sons changed their focus, unveiling a new plan, which also has now become very popular, where they designed a home which they called a ranch house. It was a 32 by 25 home. It was a little more modern than where they were building for their rental properties. They sold them for a asking price of $7,990. They were similar to their rental properties in that they were built on concrete slabs. They had expandable attics, but no garage. They had heated and hot water radiant heating pipes. They had 5 different models. And so not only did they kind of create this master plan community, but they also kind of created this quote unquote ranch house, which we in Charleston see so much of. So I wanted to give you some background into how far things have come since kind of the original mass-produced suburban neighborhood and shift our focus to the covenants and restrictions that now exist that you should be aware of when shopping for a new home. I mean, obviously, it's not anywhere near where it was, and we don't have those segregation type issues that we have or that we had back then. But I tell you that story to give you an idea of covenants and restrictions. You know, they had restrictions in their neighborhoods, in their sales agreements, in their rental agreements that said, if you're white, you can't live here. You can't rent your home to somebody that's not white. You can't sell your home to somebody that's not white. Clearly that has changed, but there are several covenants and restrictions that you need to know about when you're buying a house so that you protect yourself. You really have to take some time and protect yourself contractually so that you know the rules and regulations you need to live by. So that's what I want to talk about next. I told you that history story first and foremost because I found it fascinating, and obviously we've come so far since then, which is clearly great news, thank God. But it gives you an idea of the covenants and restrictions that were formed to shape a neighborhood into what the developer had as in its an idea of, if I'm going to build this massive community, I want it to be as profitable as possible. And what stipulations do I need to put in place for the homeowners within it to abide by to guarantee the viability of the investment for the homeowners? So when we come back, we're going to talk more about covenants and restrictions and what you need to know if you're looking to buy a home in a community run by a homeowners association. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Stay tuned for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. WTMA. Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. Thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Our conversation continues. I just told you guys about a place called Levittown, which is in New York, and it was really the kind of the flagship planned urban development community or planned suburban development community where there was an HOA, there were covenants and restrictions. It was a massive neighborhood that consisted of several thousand homes that had to abide by covenants and restrictions. And that's what I want to talk about now. If you're looking to buy a home in a community run by a homeowner situation or an HOA, which is what we call it, then you have also heard that in order to kind of join this club, you're going to have to abide by something called covenants and restrictions. So that's what I want to talk about. Again, prior to this, if you want to reach out to me, if you have questions, comments, concerns about your covenants and restrictions, there's something I can help you with. Or if, of course, you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, I'd love to earn your business. Feel free to give me a call. I do sell real estate during the week. My team and I sell a little over 200 homes a year. We're one of the top teams here in Charleston. Would love to earn your business. My number is 843-345-1273. That's 345-1273. Or you can visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. You can also send me an email at Brian Beatty, B-R-I-A-N, Beatty, B-E-A-T-T-Y, at kw.com. So what are covenants and restrictions? Although this term is, kind of conjures up this image of this, cult-based approach to living in a neighborhood, restrictive covenants, also known as CC&Rs, for covenants, conditions, and restrictions, they really aren't as ominous as they sound, but simply put, covenants and restrictions are just the rules that you'll have to follow if you live in that community. And unlike zoning regulations, which are, government-imposed requirements on how land can be used, restrictive covenants are established they're established by planned subdivisions to maintain the attractiveness and the overall value of the properties within it. So odds are you're for all the rules that keep the real estate you're buying in good shape. And that I find to be true across the board for people that are buying a home in an HOA. But some covenants and restrictions don't always sit well with some of those residents and are seen as just too restrictive, quite frankly. And I'm going to give you some examples of what that is, but it all depends on your perspective on how much freedom you want over your home or the protection from your neighbors exercising that same freedom in ways you might not like. In other words, if you want to paint your house the color you want to paint it and you don't want anybody to have any oversight over that, then an HOA is probably not the right thing for you. If, on the other hand, you want to prevent your neighbor from rebuilding their, engine in their front yard because they've got their car on cinder blocks, then an HOA can, of course, be beneficial. So let's look at some common, restrictive covenants, which, again, are those rules and regulations that you have to live by within an HOA, a homeowner situation, or homeowners association. Things like permissive colors for exterior house paint. If they've got minimum property and landscaping standards, you have to pressure wash your house, so on and so forth. You can't install landscaping without approval from the HOA. You can't install the type of fence that you want. Maybe privacy fences aren't allowed in your development. You have to put in a white picket fence in your backyard, or, the fence has to be no more than 4 feet high. They go so far as to say things like, here are the type of window treatments that you can use inside your home as viewable from the street. Again, if some of these things are just ridiculous sounding to you, then that's why you have to review your covenants and restrictions prior to buying your house. They can put limitations on the type of, security lights you can attach to your house. They can put controls on, installing sports equipment like a basketball hoop in your driveway. They can put restrictions on the number of vehicles you have in your driveway. You say you can't have a boat in your driveway. It has to be, behind the fence, out of view from the street. You've got to take your trash can up by no later than 6 p.m. that day, or you get a $100 fine. You can't park your park your car on the curb, so on and so forth. You can't put an American flag up. That was one that I heard about a year ago that was just crazy to me. So here's when you should review the covenants and restrictions. Let's say you're working with a buyer agent. You're shopping for real estate. You find a home you want to purchase. When you make the offer, the contract needs to state that you have a certain amount of time to review the covenants and restrictions. The seller has to send them to you within a certain amount of time, and you have a certain amount of time to review those covenants and restrictions. And if you don't like anything that they say, then you have the right to back out of the agreement and get your earnest money back. That's how you protect yourself in a contract. You put it in writing, you get the seller to send you those covenants, restrictions, and bylaws, and then you read through it. And yes, some of those covenants and restrictions are like 100 pages long. You don't have to read through everything, but you need to understand how you can live inside your home and what sort of covenants and restrictions are just not going to gel well with you. I'll give you an example. I sold a condo to a 21-year-old. She was single. It was her first place. Her parents helped her buy it, and she was excited about her new place. So she decided to organize a pool party, and she had like 20 of her friends check out her new place, and she had a party at her new condo, and then after they had some wine or whatever, they were going to go out to the pool. They were going to enjoy a nice weekend at the pool. Well, as they're walking in, the first person walks through, second, third, fourth, fifth. Suddenly someone stops them and says, "Hey, whoa, what's going on here? Where are all these people coming from?" "Oh, these are my friends. We're just having a party at the pool." Part of the covenants and restrictions stated that there was a limit as to the number of guests the homeowner could bring to amenities within that development. So they said, I forget what the number was, like, well, you can't have any more than 4 guests here at the pool. So 16 people that had joined this new homeowner for a party to celebrate homeownership, which is the American dream, couldn't go into the pool. The buyer was outraged, rightfully so, but I sent her those covenants and restrictions. She was supposed to review those covenants and restrictions. We had a certain amount of time within the contract to make sure she was okay with all of that. Now, it could have just been that she was young. She said she read through it and she didn't. I don't know what the story is there, but there was ample time in her contract to review those covenants and restrictions and make sure that she was in agreement with them. So now she owns a condo where she can't have any more than 4 people at the pool, including herself at any given point in time. And as she was reading through them, there were a few other things that she didn't agree with. So sometimes as a real estate agent, there's only so much we can do to help you with identifying some of these potential pitfalls and issues that could really impact your livability in the property you buy. It's our job to protect you contractually to make sure that if something is found in those covenants and restrictions that you don't agree with, that you have the right to back out of that agreement and say, wait a minute, I love the house. I love, everything you've done to the property or to the unit, and I think that we're getting it for a good price, but there are some things within these covenants and restrictions that I just don't agree with, and I don't want to have to live that way. So I'm sorry, but that doesn't work for me. I'm going to exercise my right in the contract to be released from this agreement and get my earnest money back, and we're going to go find something somewhere else. So as you're searching for properties, whether it be a home inside an HOA or a condo or a townhouse that has covenants and restrictions, you need to make sure you read through them to identify any potential issues that you might need to know about that could seriously impact your ability to enjoy the livability of your property. So just a word to the wise, read through them, make sure you agree with everything, protect yourself contractually, and your agent should be doing that for you. If for whatever reason they don't mention that, then you've heard it on this program. Make sure that contract includes an amount of time for you to review those covenants, restrictions, bylaws, and the master deed. All right? So when we come back, there was a great article that came out a few years ago, and I'm going to kind of reach back and go over that. And the article was entitled 6 Things Real Estate Agents Wish You Knew. So I'm going to talk about that coming back. Again, if you want to reach out to me, you want to talk about real estate, you have a question, comment, or if you're thinking about buying or selling real estate at any point in time, whether it's in the next month or the next 2-3 years, happy to have a discussion with you and start planning for that process. So feel free to give me a call. My number is 843-345-1273. You can call or text that number, 843-345-1273. Or you can go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Stick around, Charleston. We'll be right back.
It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Broadcast Saturday mornings at 9 and Sunday mornings at 10 on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. 1250 WTMA. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back, Charleston, to another segment of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. If you're just joining us, we just had a great conversation about HOAs, covenants and restrictions, and things you should know and be aware of if you're going to purchase a property in a homeowners association that is governed by covenants, conditions, and restrictions, commonly referred to as CC&Rs. So if you missed that conversation and you want to learn more about it, go to listingsincharleston.com. I'll have this radio show up by Monday of next week for you to listen to that portion of the program. Or if you have specific questions about purchasing a property in a neighborhood with an HOA and covenants and restrictions, or if you're thinking about selling or investing in real estate, I'm here to help you with all of that. I do sell real estate, of course, when I'm not on this program. My team sells over 200 homes a year. Would love to help you with your real estate needs. Feel free to give me a call or text me at 843-345-1273. Again, that's 843-345-1273. Or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. So what I want to talk about now is, it'll be a little bit of a scattered segment, but there was a great article that came out a few years ago, and I've talked about it slightly, but I've never really covered it in totality. And so that's what I want to do this morning is talk about this article that came out that's 6 things that real estate agents wish you knew, whether it be about us or about the industry. But there's some really good material in here, and I want to comment on it as I kind of hit the highlights. But again, if you have questions about real estate that are not covered here, you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, or you just have general questions, feel free to give me a call, 843-345-1273. That's my cell. That will be an off-air discussion, 345-1273. Call or text that number, or go to listingsincharleston.com. So, we as real estate agents, we see it all. from the the unmade beds to the overstuffed garages to the what in the world were they thinking decor. And over the years, I've been doing this for 11 years. I've sold about 1,000 homes. I've seen well over 10,000 homes in my career. I've learned a thing or two, right? Why homes sell, why some sit on the market, why some promising buyers never make it to the closing table. How to get a better deal on a mortgage, how commissions are split. So many people really don't understand how much money we actually make at the end of the day. People think that if they hire me to sell their home, that I'm getting a 6 or 7% commission. And that's just simply not the case. That's nowhere close to what I take home. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But let's hit a few different segments here. Let's first talk about how to price your home effectively. In today's market, sellers are very optimistic about the value and the price of their house. But buyers and their buyer agents aren't. I mean, buyers in general agree that prices are rising, but when they hire a buyer agent, it's not necessarily their job to substantiate how much money you want for your house as a seller. In fact, it's the opposite. It's to get them the best deal possible. Now, getting the best deal possible might mean just getting a buyer into a home before prices continue to go up or interest rates go up. They might not get the best deal financially on a house, but hey, they've accomplished their goal of being a homeowner, which is something that is a necessity at times in a seller's market, depending upon where people are looking in the Charleston area and depending upon the price range they're looking in. But again, buyer's agents are there. They exist to protect the buyer's best interest. So your challenge as a seller is to price your house so that it's compelling. So what does that mean in dollar signs? It means that you need to set a price that is consistent, or in some cases, slightly, very, very slightly below fair market value. So let's say you're in a neighborhood and, a bunch of the listed properties are on the market for between $310 and $315, but they're really selling more at like $300. Well, if you've got some active properties that are $10,000 to $15,000 above what they're actually worth, price it at what your home is worth. Price it at $300, or better yet, price it at like $298. People always think that in a seller's market, they're automatically going to get multiple offers because of the high demand among buyers. And that's just not the case. You can create that environment through compelling pricing. Now, it obviously brings into the mix that old adage of, hey, I don't want to leave money on the table, which is still a very valid concern. But if you're turning around and buying a house and you already have cash in hand because you've sold your home, or the promise of cash in hand, thanks to a fast sale, then that puts you in a very powerful position to negotiate on another property. As the other side of the coin is that if you have your home for sale and you're looking to buy something else, listing agents are savvy, buyer agents are savvy. They know that if you're going to make an offer on another property while your home is listed for sale and your home is overpriced, your offer has become automatically less attractive. If, however, your home is priced well and that listing agent can convey to the seller you're trying to buy from that, hey, that home is priced well, that should sell any day, then it gives the seller more of a reason to accept your offer. We talked last show about the process of selling a home and buying another, and some of the pros and cons of listing first and then buying, or buying first and then listing. But the point remains, the more attractive your home is from a pricing standpoint, the more the seller is going to be willing to accept your offer, and it's going to help you in terms of negotiability. So things for you to consider when you're pricing your home, especially if you're going to sell your home and buy another. Another point that this article makes is that the pre-approval letter is really just the beginning. For many potential buyers, they get a pre-qualification letter. Well, the pre-qualification letter is a lot different from a pre-approval letter, and here's why. A pre-qualification letter is really just kind of like a very simple overview of your income and your credit score and your recurring debt. A pre-approval, however, is verified by a third party. They look at tax returns. They look at bank statements. They actually review the data to determine, yes, based on this person's financial situation, I feel confident that they can get approved for a mortgage. However, we're still going to have to do some digging. We're going to have to go and look deeper into those tax returns. We're going to have to look deeper at their bank statements. We're going to have to better understand how much money they're making, how much money they're taking away, how much they're spending on recurring debt, and a variety of other things. So just because you get a pre-approval letter also doesn't mean that that buyer is going to close on that property. I work with lenders, and I make a very strict point about this, that I want to work with lenders that are willing to underwrite a buyer before they buy a house. So here's just to tell you, it's very simply what that means. If a buyer wants to work with my team, we are going to align them with a lender that will not only collect their tax returns, their bank statements, find out what their credit score is, and find out how much recurring debt they have, but they'll actually submit all of that paperwork to the underwriting department as if they've already found a home to buy. And rather than being pre-approved, I can have that lender say, yes, you are approved for a mortgage of that price. Now go find a house. And the benefit, of course, for the buyer and the seller is that we almost look like a cash buyer to them. We've already been underwritten for a loan. We've already been told we can get a mortgage. Not, yeah, we think you can get a mortgage. It's, no, you can get a mortgage for that price. Just go find a house. So it's very important to understand the difference between pre-qualification, pre-approval, and approval. And as a listing agent, let me take this one step further. In the contract, I have the ability, it gives me the right to do so. I have the ability to call that lender, if I'm representing a seller, and ask them questions about that buyer's financial capacity to purchase my seller's home. What I'm finding is that very few listing agents actually take that step. They just rely on that piece of paper. Well, I, as a listing agent, am going to feel a heck of a lot more confident in a pre-approval or an approval letter from a local lender as opposed to a pre-qualification letter from Quicken Loans. I'm sorry, those are the facts. So you as a buyer need to protect yourself. You need to put yourself in the best position possible to purchase a home. And as a seller, you need to align yourself with a real estate agent that will protect you by ensuring that once we accept a contract from a buyer, that we have done our due diligence to ensure that this thing isn't going to fall apart several weeks down the road, a few days before closing, which unfortunately happens in our industry all the time. And I think a portion of that can be blamed on the due diligence from the agent. Okay? Moving along. Let me tell you something else that this article reveals that I think is just worth discussing for a few minutes. And that is that preparing your home to be seen by buyers is incredibly important. Just because we're in a seller's market does not mean that your home will be sold guaranteed without you putting in the legwork beforehand to make your property look good and smell good. And yes, smell is important. So here's my checklist for sellers when they're having properties, when they're having their property being shown by a buyer agent. I want the house to be clean. I want it to smell good. I want it to be comfortable. I don't want it to be too hot, too cold. I want it to be comfortable. I want all the lights on. I want all the blinds open. If you put out snacks and soft drinks, hey, that's just a bonus. It's a nice touch, but I'm telling you, there's nothing better than walking into a house and smelling freshly baked cookies. Now, if you're getting, 2, 3, 4, 5 showings a week, that's a lot of cookies. I understand that. But the steps that you can take to create the best experience possible is just going to help you sell that property, and it's going to help you stand out. The buyer agents on my team, we always talk about this. Tell me about what listings look like as you're walking through them. And I have heard and seen some absolute horror stories. Disgusting kitchens and bathrooms, toilets not flushed, trash around, laundry all over rooms. The sellers didn't try at all. It's, the simplest example I can give you is if you're going to go and you're going to sell your car to a dealership, you're going to trade it in and get something new, or you're going to sell it to a third party. Don't you go and wash your car and vacuum the carpets and make it look as good as it possibly can? Doesn't that affect perceived value to the buyer or to the dealership? Of course it does. Why don't we do that with our houses? Why is it okay to leave your house in a poor condition or state before a buyer walks through it? Some sellers, frankly, are just lazy, or they just have this perception that it's going to sell no matter what, and buyers are going to look past that. Some will, most won't. So I have something on my website that I am more than happy to send to you. Just go to listingsincharleston.com, click on the contact tab, listingsincharleston.com, click on the contact tab, and then send me a message, and send in my in the message, in that subject line, just put a home sale checklist or home prep checklist. I'll know what you're talking about, but I'm going to send you a report that I wrote personally, and it's 90 things you can do to prepare your home for sale and to do before a buyer walks through it. Now, fair warning, there's a lot of stuff in there, but if you were to do everything on that list, I guarantee you, if we're priced right, we are marketed well, and your home is in good condition, it will sell. In this market, it will sell. It just takes a little bit of work on behalf of you, the seller, to prepare your home to sell, to get top dollar. So when we come back for our final segment, I want to talk about some things that you should ask when interviewing a listing agent to help you sell your home. So that's what's coming up in our final segment of the Brian Beatty Show right here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Remember, if you have questions or you want to work with my team to help you buy, sell, or invest in real estate, give me a call. 843-345-1273. Again, that's 843-345-1273. Or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. Stick around, Charleston, for the final segment of the Brian Beatty Show right here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Visit Brian Beatty's website at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. WTMA. Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, to the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show right here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. This last segment, things you should know when hiring a listing agent are extremely important to me, and I think extremely important to you as somebody that's going to sell your house, whether you're selling and moving somewhere else or selling and buying here locally. I thought about it from this perspective. What would I want if I were selling my house? Let's say I owned an investment property in Texas. Well, obviously I don't sell real estate in Texas, so I would want to hire a listing agent that has my qualities in a preferred listing agent. So I want to run through those qualities. Now, if you're thinking about selling your house, this is what I stand for. So as I'm running through this list, it gives you an idea of what I would do to sell property. And my team and I just had a planning day where we went off campus. We rented a nice condo in Wild Dunes, and we just took a day to talk about our business and how much it's grown and what we're looking for in new members of the team and in identifying our target market and really what we stand for. And so that brings me to point number one. If I were hiring an agent to sell my house, the first thing I would look for is somebody that is straightforward, honest, and trustworthy, somebody with integrity. I need to be able to trust this person, to have my best interests in mind when they represent me and talk about my house to the general public. So we talked about, who are we? What is our brand on the Brian Beatty team? We are the no-nonsense, get-it-done, truly professional real estate company. We are not the gimmicks and tricks and smoke and mirrors cheerleader agent. where everything is great and, anything you want to do can be done. We are here to advise you on the market, to be your consultant, to coach you through this process, and to just get you the best deal possible. We are results-based, and frankly, with 1,000 sales under our belts, we have the experience to back up that approach. So people hire us because they want results. They value professionalism. They value integrity, honesty. And I'm not always here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to deliver the facts in a way that helps prepare you for this market to get the best deal possible. So that's what I would look for if I were hiring a real estate agent. The second thing, of course, is I need a full-time, full-service real estate agent with support staff in place so that they can focus on selling my house. If they have a team and it's run properly, then that's even better. And I've got a team of 12 people, and we all have very specific roles designed to ensure that when you hire my team, you are getting truly the best of the best when it comes to customer service and results-based consulting. Okay, the third thing is that they need to be selling houses. And I'm not just talking about a house or two a month, not just a few years, multiple homes a month. They need to have a proven track record of not just selling homes, but selling them for close to asking price and in a relatively short amount of time. We're selling our homes in about 30 days and for 98% of our asking price. I would look for that in the listing agent I hire. They need to have a proven track record. Number 4 is that they have to be a marketing expert. I'll toot my own horn for just a second, if you don't mind. But if people don't hire me simply because of my experience and my team's experience as someone that's, worked with over 1,000 people to help them buy or sell a home, they hire me because I understand marketing. I know how to create exposure for my clients, and better yet, convert those interested people into actual sellable business for my clients. So they have to be a marketing expert with a wide variety of marketing. The fifth thing I look for is somebody that can effectively price a house. They have to be able to sell it based on market trends within that neighborhood. This is always tough for agents, by the way, that don't sell a lot of real estate, because they just don't have enough of a pulse on the market to know things like, if we price it higher than fair market value, how high can we go before we scare off potential buyers? Or something like, if we price it at fair market value, how quickly can we expect to receive an offer? Having an agent that really, truly understands the market dynamics, not just what they can read on a screen, but what they have lived through sales, is what I would look for when hiring a real estate agent. Pricing directly impacts the timing associated with the sale of your home. The more aggressive the price, the faster it would sell. And again, I'm not here to underprice your property. I'm not here to just, drop the price 5% less than what it's worth to get a quick deal and move on to the next one. I'm here to sell your house. Pricing has a big part to play in that. I'm the agent that you hire to sell your house. I am not necessarily the agent to take on a listing just for the sake of, hey, let's test the market and see what happens. Don't get me wrong. I do that if I find that their goals are reasonable and attainable. But if you're the type of seller of, hey, let's just throw it up there, you really don't have any motivation to sell. I tell everybody that, hey, I am not attached to this outcome. I'm going to see if you're the right seller for me, and you're going to see if I'm the right agent for you. This has to be a win-win situation. I'm not interested in just putting a sign in the yard for the sake of having a listing. I want to sell it. I want to help you accomplish your goal. A lot of agents aren't in that mindset because they're starving for listings. They don't have enough business to have that kind of stance. They can't afford to be picky because a listing is a listing is a listing. And if they don't sell it, well then, hey, at least they get some buyer leads from it. At least they can leverage that listing for future business. Now, yes, I do a ton of marketing and my listings are leveraged in that we create a lot of activity from it. And of course, not every buyer that inquires about our homes purchases that home. That's just not the way it works. But we give our sellers an extreme amount of options in the form of buyers that we create through our marketing. But it all has to make sense. The price has to be right. The sixth thing I'll say is that I would look for somebody that is passionate about their job. They're passionate about helping other people and that has a good reputation in the community. Some agents, they're just difficult to work with. And some agents cringe when they see their name on a listing or a contract that's been presented. And that's just the honest truth. I mean, if I was an agent that other people didn't like dealing with, it would make my job more difficult, and it would potentially have a negative impact on my client. So at the end of the day, all of us agents have to get along well. We all play in the same sandbox, so to speak. And the bad kids are the ones that usually play alone in their own corner. They just don't work well with others, and it can impact the saleability of your property. So when you're interviewing an agent, do you get a good vibe from them? Can you trust them? Do they care about you and your goals? And do they have the experience and the skill set for you to be led to believe that they can achieve your goals? Are they as attached to the outcome as you are, is what you need to ask. I want someone that frankly respects, if I'm hiring an agent, I want somebody that respects my time, that respects their own time, and that runs an efficient business. They value
Charlie James in the morning. Stimulating talk all day. WTMA.